So what's up, people, and welcome to the Chapter 17 discussion of Boku no Kitsune, or Our Blood Oath. So Chapter 17 came out this last Sunday, and as always I will leave a link to that chapter, which is currently being shown on the publisher's official website, Manga Plus, for the North American audience for free for a few weeks. So if you're interested, go take a look at it before they pull the chapter back. Now Chapter 17 starts right where Chapter 16 left off. If you recall, Chapter 16 introduced a new character named Hizuki, who is also a member of the same bloodline as Ko. And it turns out, I think he's like Ko's uncle or something like that. And he turns out to be a very powerful vampire, and he comes in clutch to save Shin and Ko from both Kane and Haiga, who were attacking him, as well as the restrainers, or the human vampire hunters, who were also attacking them. And Chapter 16 ends with Hizuki bringing the badly injured Shin back to the mansion, and Kane and Haiga are forced to come with him. And the chapter ends with Hizuki giving some sort of punishment to Kane for what he did to Shin and Ko. And we find, of course, in Chapter 16, that with a snap of his fingers, a giant mouth appears at the bottom of the room and swallows Kane up. It turns out that Kane has been sent to a void limbo sort of location where there is no sensory input. It's a completely dark room. And Chapter 17 goes into the details of what that is. This is one of Hizuki's blood powers, and it turns out that Hizuki's blood power is connected to his mansion, or at least one of his blood powers is. And because of that, he can control his mansion at will. And he shows, for example, that he can even create spikes, for example, to attack anybody that's in the mansion. And so the mansion becomes this living entity that he can fully control, and anybody within the mansion becomes somewhat a target if he wanted to. And so this goes into the discussion of what will happen to Kane. And of course, since Kane is in that dark room with no sensory input, the expectation is that he will start hallucinating to make up for the lack of sensory input. And what we find out, of course, is Kane starts hallucinating about that wedding where his sister got killed, the massacre that the human restrainers did on the Akatsuki clan. And so, of course, he's reliving that moment, and that is giving a tremendous amount of stress to Kane. Now, of course, Haiga is trying to rescue him, but Hizuki is just too powerful, and there is just no way that Haiga can break through the barriers and get into that limbo and pull Kane out. So he's begging to Hizuki for forgiveness, I guess. And what's interesting is, of course, Shin then agrees that Hizuki should somehow forgive Kane, because as much as Kane was the one that attacked Shin, at some point forgiveness needs to be given, or there will be no end to the hate that continues to go on. And what's interesting, of course, is that Hizuki smiles at that point and looks at Shin and goes, he is acting the way he always does. He is too kind a person for his own good. Which is very much true. As we've read through the 17 chapters so far, one of the things we definitely know is that Shin is a very kind person, considering that he is a blood oath contractor with Ko, one of the strongest vampires, supposedly because he is royal blood. Shin is very kind to anybody, whether it's human or vampire, and will try to do everything possible to resolve any situation without bloodshed. And so this is no different. But what's interesting is when Shin said this, Hizuki expected that Ko will agree because those two are very close. So the expectation was that Ko would agree, but in this situation, Ko said no. Kane needs to suffer. Kane needs to die. And Shin discussed this with Ko, saying that forgiveness is the important thing, And Ko said absolutely not because of the fact that he did so many things to Shin. Now, to be honest, as a reader, I could understand Ko's position because of the fact that not only did he do the things to Shin, he also did the things to Kiri and Aki, which were seriously hideous. And so if there is that sort of situation that Cain has done, is there a right to give him another chance when he did not for other people? Now, I'm not saying that he shouldn't. What I'm saying is that I just understand Ko's position for saying no. However, Shin does make a point because of the fact that this entire hatred that's going on between the humans and the vampire is because of the continuous lack of forgiveness by either of the party, which then adds fuel to the fire and stokes the hatred that continues to go on. But Ko, for once, does not agree with Shin and demands Shin to not dwell upon his argument. And in fact, Ko asks Shin to leave the mansion for a little bit, just the two of them, to somehow recover from their trauma that they had from Cain. And so they go away, and it turns out that for 3 days, Hizuki hasn't seen Shin or Ko at all. And so he's starting to wonder, did they leave for good? And of course, Ko left with the demand that Cain remain in the limbo area. So for 3 days, Cain has been in that limbo area suffering. And from what Hizuki says, if somebody stays there too long, eventually they'll go out of control and turn into a vampiric beast. So there is the possibility, as these days keep on going, that eventually Cain will meet his demise. And it's interesting because at that point, Hizuki says he had hoped that Ko would be a little bit more mature, but he's still this selfish personality that he has been in the past, which indicates that, yeah, Ko is being Ko, and he is a young child, and so you kind of expect that. But what's interesting is that if Hizuki thinks that, and if Hizuki thinks that maybe Ko has gone too far, you would expect that he would bring Cain back out. The fact that he hasn't may indicate that despite whatever has happened to Ko's parents in the past, Ko is now considered the heir to the throne. So maybe, as stubborn and as immature as Ko's demands are, his standing makes it that even somebody at the level of Hizuki is not allowed to argue for it. I'm not sure if that's the case, but there is some interesting thing that both Shin and eventually even Hizuki think that Ko is going too far, but neither Shin or Hizuki really went against Ko. So does Ko still retain that power of the heir to the throne? Even Haiga, if you recall, called him Your Majesty. And the other question is, if Ko is going down this direction and nobody's allowed to correct for that because he is the king, is there a possibility that he will become the Dark King? Will he become like an Anakin Skywalker because there is nobody who is able to mentor him and guide him, because the one person who may have had higher power authority than Ko would be, of course, his father, and his father has passed away. I'm not sure. It is interesting that in this chapter there is that slight revelation of Ko's personality. Anyway, there is still that mystery going on, and hopefully we'll get more answers as we keep on moving forward. But that was chapter 17 of Bokura no Ketsumei. What'd you think about it? How do you feel about Ko's personality? What do you think is the hierarchy with regards to the vampire reign? And what do you think was the reason why Hizuki did not go against Ko's demand, even if he thought that Ko was going a little bit overboard? If you could leave your comments in the comment section below, I would appreciate it. And in any case, I will continue to upload videos as new chapters come out for continued discussions. And I hope you join me at that time. So thank you very much for listening, and until the next episode, Jaya, nice day.